Okay, so we are back after having to call it a little bit early on the first go round. Now that I am here, I can pick up where I left off. So, to make a long story short, this is a brand new build that has so much stuff that has been added into it, and there's quite a few decks that you can now play, right? It's just got a lot more variety, and so I wanted to do some testing. And I was just showing off how just strong the Ancient Beast subset is. Without their runes, they are doing some crazy things. But with that being said, I got the footage that I wanted of the Ancient Beast activating improperly. So now I need to get footage of the fact that Immerag has not been added to the correct working card pool. So there's a button that you press in this game where, in developer mode, if you just go over here, it is supposed to add all of the cards with working effects to your inventory. Now the reason for that is there's a lot of people who test the game for us, and so rather than making them find each individual card, this is a lot more streamlined, but only 2 of the Swamp Dweller cards were added. The final Swamp Dweller card, Immerag, was not added to the working card pool, but I've tested it and its effects are working. So I'm just going to, at 1 minute in, because you can literally see it, all of the cards that have just been added to my deck, my account, are here, and Immerag is not included, so I'm going to ask them to put that in, and that's at 1 minute. Okay, Immerag is missing. Alright, now there are a few other things. So we've done Ally of the Ancients, we've done Immerag. Now, there's another thing that is an issue, which is a problem with how the Swamp Dweller effects activate that I have noticed, right? Wherein, if you summon an Ancient Beast token or a Swamp Dweller card, they will be forced to attack the turn that they are summoned, right? So let's go normal. Let's go Shrek the Third for our deck, and I will show you what I'm talking about. Now, the Swamp Dweller subset is part of a really fun combo that I like to do, where you set this face down, you set card exchange face down, you summon these 2 cards, and you summon Immerag. And what the Swamp Dwellers are all about is interchanging with themselves, like tagging off the field to summon a card from the graveyard. And so you can use that with card exchange quite well. Wherein, if I begin the turn, and I begin by activating, I have to activate Orion's Belt first because it's a mandatory effect, and then I card exchange. Now, I will discard Immerag to the graveyard, and that will allow me to draw 1 card. Let's see what we get. Okay, it looks like we got a rune because nothing got added to my monster hand. Yep, we drew the freeze rune, which is useful. Movement phase 1 rolls around. Now, in battle phase 1, Fee Fi Fo will ask to activate. It tributes itself to the graveyard, and it will summon the card that I just discarded to the graveyard from the graveyard. On summon, this card will then activate Belly Drum, which will add a Swamp Dweller card from my main deck to my hand. Now, the problem with this is, that card was forced to attack, which means that it can't activate its effect next turn to summon the card from my hand at cheaper than what it would have been summoned for. So the combo is broken because the card is forced to attack. When a card is on the field for only 1 turn, you're supposed to have the option of whether or not you attack with it on the turn it was summoned. But for whatever reason, that's not happening with any of the Swamp Dwellers, not just Immerag. I just wanted to use that as an example. Any of them that are summoned are forced to attack immediately. So I'm just going to put that at 3 minutes in. Swamp Dwellers forced to attack. And as a result of that, you don't really get to feel the benefit of the Swamp Dwellers. They're the one deck that was added to where it's like, okay, yes, you're here, but because of that, like, the whole point is that you're supposed to be able to get a rank 3 on the field for very cheap. But because the combo breaks, it's physically impossible to do it, at least in the training mode, because you will always be forced to attack. Unless you, of course, reduce the stats of the card that you're about to attack into. That way you can survive, and so on and so forth. So it's possible to do. It's just not supposed to take that much setup. It's supposed to be a lot easier and more streamlined to do that. And the exact same thing applies to the Ancient Beast tokens. Basically, anything that is being summoned onto the field, anything that is being contract summoned, is being forced to attack. And we'll see if I can. How would we put ourselves in a situation where we would get to see that? I don't actually know how to make that happen with the Ancient Beast, because it happened by accident the time that it did occur. We can summon... Think. We'll put this down. We'll put this down. This, and let's say this. Oh, shoot. I chose defensive, apparently. I thought that I had chosen aggressive. Okay, that's absolutely fine. We will end this. Let's just activate Incinerate now. And I'm going to turn my toggle off because it's going to get very, very annoying. And let's target you with our Incinerate. Don't chain. Now again, my objective here is just to create a situation where... My objective is just to create a situation where I can have a token that is in a position to attack the turn that it's summoned, and show you that it is being forced to do so. End phase rolls around. We make it to the next turn. We can draw for turn here. Although the cards that we're drawing don't really matter that much in this situation. We will just double up on offense because they are playing defensive. Right? Now, this is also a decent time to show off the bug with Ancient Beasts, where when they are destroyed, they are summoning tokens, which they should not have the power to. That's a crazy buff. That is a crazy buff. And if anyone's going to get that, it should be Nadia and I forgot to turn my toggle. Wait, what? Oh. Ally of the Ancients was activatable even with my toggle off, or maybe it's because I did it like at the last possible second, potentially. Yeah, we can summon you in the Assault Zone. It won't really matter. Ally of the Ancients activates. Now, that shouldn't have been possible because she died, right? Like, in a situation where the card in question dies, you should not be able to Ally of the Ancients that card. Now, I think I'll choose to not attack here. Just so that I can prove the thing that I'm trying to prove. So next turn, we'll be able to generate a token and showcase the fact that, oh, hey, this token isn't doing any, or it isn't allowed to survive. It's not given the option. Because this token here is absolutely supposed to be forced to attack. The one that we're about to summon, it shouldn't be. Okay, and wave start, don't activate anything. It's so cool that all of these effects are working properly, though. I've tested, I'm pretty sure, all of them at this point, and all of them work just fine. Battle phase 1, Calm, and correct, Calm is the only one that should still be activatable. We swing, destroy that, activate Ally of the Ancients to generate a token in the Assault Zone. Token gets generated. We swing a second time because Chain of Momentum carries us into the opponent. We get destroyed. We swing again, this time with Leonidas. Leonidas destroys it. Activate Ally of the Ancients to summon another token in the Assault Zone. Like, honestly, these guys just don't lose. They just don't lose in terms of stats and in terms of value of the cards. Losing Invictus there is tough, though, because it means we can't instruct any of the tokens, which you very much want to do. And you'll see here, I'm not going to get a choice in this battle phase on whether to attack or not. It's just going to happen automatically, right? There's no, would you like to attack? It just automatically does it. So we are going to just put that down as, that's 9 minutes in. Yep, 9 minutes in. 9 minutes in. Tokens forced to attack. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay, so we have all of those things. We have footage for. We have evidence for all of those things. The effects of the Wolverine and the Honey Badger do not work against AI. Right, that still wasn't working. Let's quit. Now, something that I wanted to show off is the fact that the guild feature still isn't working. And what I've realized is that any account, I think the guilds were wiped, because over here, if I push the button for the guild, the account just goes into a spiral. It never actually lets me do anything, right? And I become completely stuck, so I have to restart the whole app. But what I found is that if that's because this account was in a guild previously, right? Any account that wasn't in any account that wasn't in a guild before doesn't have that problem. So if I sign in with Google, it'll automatically send me into the last account that I used, so it'll still have this problem. But if I sign into a different account here, if I log out and sign into something else, I'm able to join the guild just fine. Now, there is still a problem in that if I also found that in a situation where no guilds exist at all, let's go with this one. In a situation where no guilds exist at all, if you push the I would like to join a guild button, it also sends your account into the free fall spiral where it just goes on and on and on and on forever. But if we come over here, it works, right? So on this account, I made a brand new guild, and that worked properly, and so it stopped having that issue. But when I first came onto this account, when no guilds existed, and I pushed the button that I want to join a guild, it just started spiraling forever instead of just saying, "Oh, hey, no guilds exist." So there needs to be a message telling people, oh, rather than putting them into a spiral, just say, oh, hey, no guilds currently exist, but you can create one. And then, the account said, for whatever reason, we're in a guild previously, should just like be taken out of it, or I don't know. I don't know how you would fix that, but yeah. So that is the guilds issue. Let me see if there are any decks built on this account, and what cards are owned over here. It looks like, nope, it looks like this account also owns everything, unfortunately. This account also owns everything, unfortunately, so let's sign out. Right? Yo, Neoshock, how you doing, bro? It's going all right. I'm just going through with some testing. This build is exceptional. Right, we have the Ancient Beast subset now in. They don't have their runes, but they're here now. We have the Swamp Dwellers and we have the Daemons all added into the game. And it's just fun. It's just fun to be able to have their effects and play around with them. And see how they actually like function is really, really cool. And having the AI to battle against is so good for testing as well. I didn't realize how useful it was going to be for testing. But dude, it's so good. It's so good. What else did I want to test? I would love to show off the new stuff as well, but I do want to get footage of the things that I know for a fact are not working. Let's see here. Minos' Forest. So Forest Labyrinth isn't working properly. So let's go in and test against that. Let's get that footage. Forest Gang. What's card acquisition like? I haven't fully decided how I'm going to do it for the open beta. I mean, card acquisition is the same as always in terms of like you pull from the packs and you get what you get out of them. For the open beta, I may do it that you just have all of the cards to begin with, but I don't know if that necessarily makes sense because then there isn't like a sense of progression as you go about building your deck and making your guys stronger. So if I do this, it should be possible for me to block an attack with Minos but as you're about to see, that won't work, unfortunately, right? So that's what card acquisition. It might be that in the open beta you get everything. Is there a dupe or crafting system or mass card opening? Yep, you can open, I believe it's 10 packs at once, so that's useful. There is a card conversion system wherein you can convert your cards into shards and use those shards to get exclusive like runes and stuff like that. You can't craft every card in the game because we would go bankrupt. We wouldn't make any money if you could craft every single card in the game, because we're not like a Konami with a bunch of resources and like things in our pocket. But you can craft a fair amount, I would say. Why did I incinerate so early? That was a mistake. Oh well. So you can craft a good selection of cards, and then there's also the guild shop where you can, achieve things with your guild, gain guild tokens, and that's another free-to-play way to gain cards, because you can use guild tokens to craft cards as well. Activate this, place a counter over here, don't activate Forest Guardian. So yeah, you can get dupes, but you can just transfer the dupes and use them to get shards to get other cards. No, don't attack this turn. No, don't attack this turn. Movement phase 2 rolls around. Now, what should happen here is my opponent attacks. I Forest Labyrinth to negate the attack. And that's the end of it. That should be where it all stops, right? But unfortunately, for whatever reason, I block the attack. The attack does get negated. And then right after that, he's able to declare an attack again for some reason. And I have no idea why. Right? That just should not be possible. So I'm going to mark that down as an error. That was at 16 minutes in. 16 minutes in. Forest Lab. Cards attacking a second time after Forest Lab. Okay, so we've got Forest Lab down. Now, there's something else that I want to get footage of, which is the generic cards at play. What would say is the most complicated effect in the game ruling-wise? Ruling-wise is a question. Coding wise, so if you were to ask me coding wise, the effect in the game that has given us the most grief is Ryu's switch, because it has so many different interactions that are very confusing. Like, for example, if Ryu tries to switch with the Wandering Phoenix, for example, and then at that exact moment the Wandering Phoenix activates its effect and tributes itself to the graveyard to boost up that same Ryu, what happens? That was a whole thing that we had to fix, and so we made it so that if the target for switch leaves the field before the effect resolves, then the effect fizzles out. You don't get to activate switch anymore, because you have to have something to switch with. Now, in terms of rulings specifically, in terms of rulings, I want to say maybe Grimace of the Reaper, in terms of how continuous effects should work. Like, oh, should a continuous effect continue? Like, how do I put it? When a continuous effect is activated, does that card need to continuously be activating the effect for that to work? I don't know if that makes sense, in a sense of like, okay, if it activates its effect and then I negate the card, if it's a continuous effect, shouldn't it stop working? And initially, yes, that was the case. But what I found is that, for example, if a card activates a continuous effect and then that card proceeds to be destroyed, there are instances where that effect would still work if the effect gave a specific time period that it was supposed to be activatable for. So it's like, okay, in a situation where the card gave a specific time period that it's meant to be activatable for, it won't... Wait, did I choose defensive? Oh, I'm dumb. I chose defensive, right? But yeah, so it's lingering versus continuous, effectively. And so I've just made it so that lingering and continuous effects are more or less the same thing in this game. So even if you, and it increases the value of continuous cards. So even if you destroy a continuous effect, a card with a continuous effect, or negate it, if it's already activated the effect, whatever it caused to linger will still be lingering. Maybe it won't be able to activate the effect again, but it will still Yeah, it will still be there. I need to just start over. Right? So continuous effects are very strong in this game because once it's been activated, there's not really too much you can do other than try and play around it. The caveat to that is we don't really have too many continuous effects in the game. So it's not that difficult to contend against. Let's go in again and try and do that one more time. So turn number 1 will roll around. We card exchange once again. To try and get the generic cards as quickly as possible. And, right? So I'm thinking maybe that, right? Because, yeah, in terms of rulings, that might be the one thing that it's like, oh, yeah, that could be, that was a lot, or that was confusing, or whatever it is. Battle phase 1. Movement phase 2, battle phase 2, we get swung into here. Boss Guardian will give us a card off the top of our deck. I'm hoping to get the Wolverine. Please. Let's go! Okay, beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So, what I wanted to show off is the fact that the Wolverine's effect just does not work. So does that make Umbrage a lingering effect? No. No, how Umbrage's effect works now is a little bit different. I'll show you in a second. Rather than needing to activate the effect once and he just keeps on going, each time he activates the effect, there's a clause in the effect that says he can activate the effect again. So each activation of the effect is its own individual effect that the opponent can counter or play around, just for the sake of balance. Right? So we put the Wolverine on the field. I guess we can put you on the field too so we don't just outright die. Well, we won't die, actually. We're very good on life right now. And yeah, the Wolverine just was not activating before. Now, it might just be that it wasn't activating with the toggle off. I actually want to test that right now. Is that it's not activating with the toggle off? Because it's a mandatory effect. So whether the toggle is on or off, the effect is still supposed to activate. Now, I tested it with the effect off. Sorry, with the toggle off, and it did not work. With the toggle on, let's see. Okay, so with the toggle on, the effect is working. The effect is working, but if you turn the toggle off, it doesn't get the prompt to activate. All right, cool. Fair enough. Right? I guess if there's no effect cap, then it doesn't matter how many times it activates. Exactly, right? So that's once the effect cap was removed, it gave a lot more flexibility in terms of like how you can use effects and what you can do in terms of crafting them and balancing them. Okay, turn number 3, please give me Honey Badger. Show me Honey Badger. Let's go! Okay, so we can test this really quick. And this will just be a demonstration of the fact that when the toggle is off, they're still not activating the effect, even though it's mandatory, so they should be forced to activate it every single time. Movement phase 1 rolls around, battle phase 1. He's going to swing into me. I should be forced to activate Sweet Scent, but it doesn't come through because the toggle button is off. And that was at, let's call that 22 minutes in. Right? 22 minutes in. Works with toggle on, but not when off. Okay. And the only other thing that is pressing to get footage of right now is the card data feature, where basically there's a thing in this game where if you are looking at a card that you do not own, here I'll just head out. But yeah, let me show you Umbrage real quick, because it's just a solid change in my opinion that makes it a lot more balanced. I'll log out on this account so I can do the thing I want to do in a sec. But yeah, Umbrage is actually the next he's the next card that's being added into the game. I'm so excited. The Reapers are probably going to be added in next week. So we will have them to play around with. When this card declares an attack, after the battle, reset its attack value to its original attack. This effect can be activated again this turn, right? So it's internally balanced. I wonder how good the Forest Guard deck is now as a combo deck. They were quite affected by the effect cap. They are, in my opinion, they're strong. right? They will be a contender for tier 3, maybe tier 2 in my opinion, just because like if you are able to solve it and find a very good way to manage the resources, they're so good. But also, you know what I think is in ranked play, they'll be so good, right? In tournament play, they may be one of the worst performing decks in the game. And I'm having so much fun because I'm writing Nexus 101, which is supposed to be like, oh, what if Nexus was played as a competitive sport in schools? And one of the things is like, okay, side decking. And how would you build a side deck for this game? Well, a side deck for this game, you technically don't have staples. You have generic cards and everything, but for a side deck, the way that you build that, the way that you structure your side deck isn't necessarily to have like staples in there or situational cards. Some of that, yes, and maybe you have like a minor subset that you can switch in and out of the deck, but the best thing to have as a player in your side deck is specific cards from subsets. Even if it's a subset that you are not playing, cards from subsets that allow you to mess up your opponent's strategy. And I never realized you could do this. Where Forest Woodland says, increase a forest card avatar's attack or defense by the number of forest counters it has times 50. Remove the forest counters after this card resolves. Now, that doesn't say that the card has to be yours, is the thing. So let's say your opponent has placed all of their forest counters on a single card, right? You activate this effect, boom, they're out of forest counters now. So now a forest guard player in a tournament setting has to play around that and spread their counters evenly. And cards like Kalpa Banyan that require the counters to be on the card itself for its effect to activate, well, in ranked play, that's super good because you can catch people off guard. In tournament play, if they know Kalpa Banyan is coming and they use this effect on it to get rid of the forest counters right before it's about to attack, well, now it just loses the effect, which is really good, well, for the opponent. And a card like Selenis, there's no synergy rating for runes, it's only for avatars. A card like Selenis, the main combo for the Forest Guard subset is you activate Selenis, Selenis destroys himself at the end of the turn, right? But you place a counter on Selenis and then use Forest Wall, which says if a card is about to be destroyed, remove a forest counter from it instead. That card is not destroyed. Well, if I Forest Woodland your Selenis before you are able to use Forest Wall to protect it and you don't have another way to get a forest counter on it, that guarantees that Selenis dies turn 1 and it completely ruins the Forest Guard strategy, which I just don't know how you play around that. I don't know how you fix that in tournament play. Like, I feel like it's just going to be very difficult to play that deck. On ladder, that deck is going to be crazy. In tournament play, I feel like it's just going to be, you just side deck for it, right? If your opponent is smart enough to side deck for that specific strategy, you're cooked. The Gladiators also have that. And I mean, I guess if you're a good player, you'll adapt on the fly or figure something else out. The Gladiators also have something like that, where it's like, oh, hey, where is it? Right, Liberation. Remove the inducted status from a card in the Gladiator subset and draw 1 card. So if I'm playing against a Gladiator player and my opponent tries to induct me into the Gladiator subset, I can just waste their effect by removing the induction and I draw a card off of that as well, right? But yeah, no, there was never a rune synergy rating. Runes never had a synergy rating. It was only the avatars that had one. I was considering doing relics as a special type of rune that had a synergy rating, but that's neither here nor there. I haven't really made a concrete decision on that. What was I doing? Right, I wanted to show off this one last thing before, because I do want to do some general testing. But I don't have tons of time right now, so I'll do the general testing later. And I just want to show off one core thing before I wrap here. Right? Which is, why have we been disconnected? Hello? Let's try that again. That was weird. Okay, so start now. Huh, that should be working. Why am I not mirroring my screen? Huh. I guess Power Mirror is trying to tell me that I need to get off now. Oh, there we go. So, what I want to test is it's very straightforward. It's going to be very, very quick, right? So we enter the ranked arena, and we'll play against ourselves this time around. And my opponent has the Ancient Beast subset, which is a deck of cards that I don't have. Now, while in this screen, I can if I hold the button to show me all the cards in this subset, it shows me all of the cards that I own from this subset. So if I'm playing against a deck and I want more information on the cards that I might need to expect, I can hold on that button and it shows me all of those cards. There's two core problems with that. One, I have to own the cards to be able to see what's going on with them. And two, it's showing literally all of them, as in like the variants as well, which I don't really want. Now, to solve the first problem, there's supposed to be a button here that says, hey, when you're looking in the deck editor, show cards that you do not own, which means that if there are cards that I don't own in a subset, I should be able to see, anyway. So looking at this, even though that button is on, I still don't get to see the cards, which is a big problem, because if a player doesn't own the cards, then that just means it's a pay-to-win sort of thing, where if they had spent money on the cards, oh, well, then they would get to see the effects and the stats and know what they were up against, but they don't get to do that because they don't have the cards in their inventory. So I'm just going to put show unowned cards and only show base rarity. Right? And I feel like that is the best way to go about sort of sorting that as an issue. Okay, so those are the core things that I wanted to test in this stream. I'm going to do hopefully one more later on that is a bit more involved. It's literally just like playing rather than specific testing, as it were. But yeah, it's just nice to see that all of this works as it's intended to, right? I don't know why I just put that in the assault zone. I shouldn't have put that, well, on my opponent's screen, I put that in the assault zone when it should have been a defensive card that I summoned. But here it is in my opponent's, interesting. Wait a second. My opponent just summoned a token and I can't see it. My opponent just summoned a token and I can't see it. 32 minutes in. Right? I see the screen highlighted. 32. My opponent summoned a token and I can't see it. It's clearly there. I see it highlighted, but I'm unable to actually see the cards. That's interesting as well. So yeah, I guess there is a lot more testing that needs to be done over here. I've only really tested against the AI. We'll do more AI testing, but I want to do like actual duels against a person for testing. Do you have any excitement for TCG Pokemon? For Pokemon Pocket? Kind of yes, kind of no. The battle system looks like it's simple, sort of like the Pokemon Go battle system, which I like. I can appreciate that. I just don't know that I will have this time to dedicate to it. Like, I'm trying to streamline my gaming experience to have a few core games. My core game on console is My Hero Ultra Rumble. The game that I play is like a secondary sometimes is Rocket League. I tried Sparking Zero and it was just too much learning, so I decided to not really play that anymore. I still have it, but I'm just not really interested in playing. And then on my phone, I've got Pokemon Go. And ideally, the secondary on my phone will be the Summoner's Nexus TCG. But until that comes out, yeah, I'm cool to play around with things like Pokemon Pocket and so on and so forth. But yeah, okay, thank you so much for hanging out with me, Neoshock. I will catch you in a little bit. Well, I say a little bit. I'm hoping to stream potentially this evening, if not tomorrow. But yeah, that's the plan. Have a wonderful day if I don't see you again today.